Welcome to Spotlight Veterans Entrepreneurship, a special series from the American Legion's Tango Alpha Lima podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Gorbolja. In each episode, we sit down with a veteran or military spouse entrepreneur who is leading the charge across different industries. We will explore the challenges, breakthroughs, and real stories behind building a business during and after military service. In this episode, we explore the power of community-driven commerce. From side hustles to national product lines, online marketplaces offer veterans and military spouses a flexible gateway to entrepreneurship. Our guest, Monica Fullerton, founder of Spousely, shares how she transformed her personal need into a powerful e-commerce platform and how the military connected entrepreneurs came to do the same. Monica, welcome to the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
Hey, Ashley, thanks so much for having me.
Pleasure. I'm so excited. I've been watching your journey for a very long time now, it feels like, but I know it's only been a few years that you've been at it with Spousely, and I will go ahead and kick off the first question if you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right. So the first question is about origin and identity. What was the initial spark that led to Spousely? And was it a market gap that you had experienced firsthand or a deeper drive to build something bigger for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So Spousely really stemmed from my own personal frustration and inspiration as a military spouse. Oftentimes we are faced with the unknown. We're trying to really piece the puzzle together with frequent cross-country moves, really trying to see, what job might align. And at the end of the day, it can become very frustrating, as well as feeling like we have to take the back seat on this journey. And so I was actually headed to dinner one night with a few fellow military spouses. And I remember thinking in that car ride alone, there was so much talent. There was a photographer, a private investigator, a spouse that made coffee, me that loves everything in business. I've always been the one that's helping people start and scale businesses. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, if there's that much talent just in one car ride alone, what does it look like in our entire community? So I started doing my market research, and I found that there are millions of businesses owned by our nation's heroes. And I thought that was really, really incredible. And the biggest piece was military spouses. Many military spouses were turning to entrepreneurship to be able to bridge the gap between doing what you love and living a life on the go. So that's kind of really what powered me to think, okay, how can I bring all of these businesses together on one easy platform for people to shop small and make a big impact? And that's really when the idea of Spousely was born. And fun fact, the name Spousely is because I used to always say to all of my military spouse friends, that's so spousely of you, because they always had a way of really lighting up somebody's, day and bringing a custom gift or baking something and really just making you feel like you were just so welcomed and loved.
I love that. That is super cute. And I didn't know the origin story. So now I feel very special now that I know, because I'm going to use that, if you don't mind, when I'm like,
Of
oh,
course.
because I've got plenty of friends who are military spouses that are still in the service, who have that drive entrepreneurship wise, and they want to do something, whether it's their side hustle or be creative or explore, build upon those talents. So I think you really had a profound moment in a car. That's amazing. And it sounds like you've been around very talented individuals. You stated that you've been helping people build businesses and you've been doing this type of work. So, when it comes to community commerce, e-commerce is competitive.
Yes.
Let's just say it. It's competitive. A lot of people don't know necessarily where to start. But with Spousely, you've blended community and commerce, which I love. So how do you balance platform growth with nurturing meaningful vendor relationships?
Yes. Well, at the end of the day, honestly, we are building and growing from the ground up with our community, with our people. And I think that that is really powerful because we are building something that we all want to be a part of. And when you have that same passion and that same drive to really help one another grow on this journey, really anything is possible. And so for us, what we quickly learned is that our vendors are our customers and our customers are our vendors. It's the same thing that other big marketplaces learned early on. And that's something that you really have to embrace and tap into and be able to see that when you have an amazing community of makers, creators, and entrepreneurs, they really want to share and spread the word with their family, with their friends, with their neighbors, whoever it might be. And that is really what powers a type of community based marketplace. It's truly the power of us, what we're building together, and word of mouth. Honestly, over the past 5 years, we've grown by all just word of mouth. And I think that that's really, really powerful because it goes to show that it is so much more than just a place to shop. It has turned into a true entrepreneurial hub. It's turned into that place where we can really, come together, come out of our shell, feel empowered, feel like we can be there for one another, even though we've never met each other, maybe in person, or, maybe it's somebody that's in the Air Force and somebody that's in the Navy. And, those two worlds never really collided. And now they do. And now it's a way for just us to come together and really create that impact driven marketplace.
Outstanding. I commend you. I love to hear that word of mouth has been your number one marketing tool. And I feel
Yes.
that that is very fair throughout the military connected community. We love to support one another. And you've made it very, user friendly to go do so. And that I absolutely adore, because as we look at how the marketplace is changing, how AI is coming into the mix,
Yeah.
how we're, even inundated with ads and things that are constantly marketing to us, to hear that, like, the the sage age old truth is that, like, people trust other people. And
Yep.
so the military community tends to always kind of find its way through with that. So with that being said, how has your identity as a military spouse influenced your structure and priorities of your business? And what would you say to others who are feeling maybe stuck or unsupported in launching their own ventures?
Yeah, I think it all stems back to, my first early days of becoming a military spouse. I've always been a very career driven person. I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I wanted to build something that was much bigger than myself, something that made an actual impact. And it really goes back to those early days where I remember I was going into interview after interview. I had just finished my master's in broadcasting and communications, which, Ashley, I'm sure you can totally relate to that piece of everything. And it was really challenging because I remember thinking, there's no way I can hold a career in broadcasting or anything with communications, because usually you have to live somewhere for a certain amount of time in order to build up your career. And really, that's just what it was like. And so I would go into interviews and I'm like, do I tell them I'm a military spouse or do I not tell them I'm a military spouse? Because I never wanted it to, you know, get put a wedge in between my dreams and my goals. And, at the end of the day, what I learned is that the more that you continue to put yourself out there in a way that also is very vulnerable, but yet authentic, the right people will continue to come to you. The right doors will continue to open. And so that really is the foundation of what Spousely is built upon. It's never dim your light. It's never, feel like you can't do something, which is part of the reason why our podcast is called I'm Possible. And it really is about how our community is turning what might seem impossible into I'm Possible. Because my story is just one of them. There are so many other stories where many can relate to, where they felt that same feeling of the unknown. How am I going to continue to advance? How am I going to build something? How am I going to be able to get to where I want to go? So at the end of the day, Spousely is really built on that foundation of we can turn what might seem impossible into I'm possible. So that's really been our main driver, and our core foundation is helping one another continue to get to where we want to go. And, we've just got so many inspiring military spouse owned businesses, veterans, service members, Gold Star families, first responder families. And like I mentioned before, it's really bringing everybody together to help one another take that leap.
Gives me all the warm and fuzzies, because it's true. It's absolutely true what you've just said. And the priorities are they're simple at its root, right? Like you take care of people and people will take care of you.
Yes.
And I really appreciate you making this happen for a community that doesn't always see the possibilities.
Yeah.
And so I love that your podcast is called I'm Possible. There's something very powerful about positive language. I know I'm a I can, I will, watch me kind of gal, so
Yes.
I understand completely. So this is this is such a treat to interview you, particularly because I have, like I said, I've been watching this journey for 5+ years, and I can't believe it's been 5 years, by the
I
way.
know. I can't believe it either. It's one of those things where it's like just that roller coaster and you're just kind of on board for the ride and you don't really know what's next, but you just keep putting your arms and your hands up in the air, just and waving them around like you're just gonna keep going kind of thing.
I understand it's the ebb and flows, the unknowns. It can be very, very scary, and I know that scaling can also be very scary too. And
Yeah.
that was going to lean into my next question here. But what was one of the hardest lessons that you learned while you were scaling Spousely? Whether that was tech development, funding, marketing, or you know,
Um,
I guess we'll leave it open to the things you weren't expecting, but how did you push through those?
Whew, well, there are so many of them, so I don't really know which one to pick. But I will say, really, honestly, the biggest one is to always go with your gut. And I think that that sounds so simple and is one of those things where we overlook it so much. But at the end of the day, you know, you started this company for a reason. You have a drive and a mission that you want to continue fulfilling. And oftentimes, not everybody that comes in your path is going to fully align with where you are trying to take the company or the ways that you want to continue to really advance your values and help other people grow. And I think the biggest thing is we always are seeking other people's, not necessarily approval, but other people to help us say yes to this, or oh, I definitely need this in order to get here. And at the end of the day, when you really look back to your foundation and to why you started in the first place, that is your guiding light, and that will forever be your guiding light. And it is tied directly to your gut because you took the leap in the first place. And I really think that the biggest lesson that I've learned is trust yourself. Stop always seeking approval or support from other people at different times, because you will fall into place on the journey of what is supposed to be if you always go with your gut. And it kind of leads to one of the biggest quotes that I've been like living by on this journey. And it's growth begins when comfort ends. And I talk about that all the time because it is so, so true. We do have to make those scary leaps. We do have to pivot. We have to, challenge ourselves in new ways. But at the end of the day, honestly, those challenges and those mistakes that we've made, and maybe we brought the wrong person in, or we hired something, we're looking for more that we wanted out of it and we didn't get the best result. At the end of the day, those were all learning moments that allow you to continue pushing forward.
Absolutely. I think far too often we share a lot of the good stuff that happens, but a lot of people really don't know how it's made in the background.
Yes.
And I think what you've just said is that like every entrepreneur out there has made mistakes
Yes.
or they have failed forward, right? They were like, oh, okay, I'm going to take this pearl of wisdom that I
Yep.
didn't otherwise think I needed, but now I have, and I could again realign back to that North Star, that guiding light on what you need to do in order to ensure that when you're scaling, right, or whether that's the tech piece, you hire the wrong person or the
Yep.
person doesn't, see eye to eye with you,
Yep.
to, funding. Not everyone wants to fund without maybe an ulterior motive, right? Like you got to kind of sniff some of that out, which can
Yep.
be taxing. And I think sometimes we forget like how much is happening on the background, because usually that's years of work behind the scenes before people really see all of a sudden you kind
Yes.
of hit the stage. People are like, whoa, how did you do it? And it's like, if you knew how many hours
Yeah.
we spent trying to figure it out, the weekends,
Yep.
having to make sacrifices for family. I know you have children, you have
Yep.
husband, right? Like it's there's a lot that goes into being an entrepreneur, particularly with this type of e-commerce work that you're doing. Um,
Yeah,
and
I
so
know.
it's really motivating.
Been bootstrapping since launch, and I think it goes back to one of those things where you just kind of keep learning sometimes hard lessons, but at the end of the day, like, going fast is not always the best way to get to where you want to go. And for us, honestly, the impact has been way more than I ever could have expected when I first launched Spousely. So it is really just, showing that you don't necessarily need to follow this like checklist type item, in entrepreneurship where you're like, oh, I have to raise capital in order to get here, or I must, bring in a CTO, or I have to have a co-founder, or whatever it might be. There's a lot of noise out there when it comes to entrepreneurship. Just always go with your gut. And that's part of the reason why, bootstrapping has gotten us so far, is because it has allowed me to make sure that I'm taking the time to make sure we're doing everything in a thoughtful way to take those steps forward. Even though it might be a slow turtle forward, it's still forward and it's still making the impact. So
I honestly, I think bootstrapping is a great way to go, because you're right. You get to hold on, have that autonomy and freedom to make decisions.
yeah.
Because I'm sure you know folks who are in the space who have angel investors, or they grew too fast. I see
Yep.
that often.
That
And
is
there
a
is a
very
lot
real
of noise.
problem, growing too fast.
Yes, and it's always fascinating to me, because I'll see these companies that grow very very fast. I'm just like, you grow that fast, some things break.
Hmm.
It's just that's going to happen, and so even in like the contracting space,
Yeah.
or certain industries are a lot more prone to it. And so you're right, there's a lot of noise. And so the hope with this series is to kind of cut through some of that noise, that like you don't necessarily have to follow that checklist. There's
Yep.
a lot of, boots to business. There, again, these are all different classes that are out there, and you can take them, and
Yep.
they give you the roadmap. But like you've stated, like sometimes there's just, you got to go in a different order, in the order that works for you.
Yeah, and always find, like, if you admire someone else's journey that, is already maybe a few years ahead of you, like really try to reach out to that person, see if they'll become a mentor, because there's no greater advantage on this journey than being able to have a really good mentor or really good support system in that way. And it all stems from just finding someone that you feel connected to from their journey. And that's something that was really important to me. Is day one of entrepreneurship, I said, I'm always going to share the real. There's never going to be any fluff. Yes, we might see, the features and all the exciting things that we have, but at the end of the day, I do try to balance it with showing a lot of the real, the behind the scenes, because it is not always sunshine and rainbows.
Absolutely. There's a lot of hours that go in. Like I said,
Yep.
I know, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so so we talk a little bit about like mentors, advising, finding someone who is a good fit for you. I'm interested to learn a little bit about the legacy and vision component of this. So how would you define success at this stage of Spousely? And what would make you feel like Spousely has left a lasting mark on the military connected community entrepreneurship ecosystem? It's a loaded one. There's a lot of words there, a lot of
Yeah.
syllables.
So the best part about Spousely is it's such a beautiful business model, because the more the platform grows, the more it's directly putting funds back in the pockets of our nation's heroes. The more our vendors grow, the more the platform grows, the more that we're able to truly grow together, which is amazing, because oftentimes, you kind of feel like you're growing on your own, or you're not growing fast enough. And it really gives us the opportunity to help one another on this journey. And so, I would say the biggest thing with up and coming is we've really continued to expand in so many different ways. Like I said before, it's so much more than just an online marketplace. It's an entrepreneurial hub. We have a ton of resources. We're helping our vendors. We have vendors that never even thought they were going to launch a business, and then they heard about Spousely, and they'll share stories with us where they feel so comfortable now to finally take that leap into maybe, turning a passion into an actual online business. So I will say the biggest impact piece is knowing that no matter what we do, even if it's spousely or if it's us as individuals, it's always helping and benefiting someone else. Because if you think about it, if you are a shop owner on spousely, like I said before, you're going and you're telling your friends and your family. Well, the best part about that is now you've got them coming to the site looking at your business, but now they're exploring other businesses too. And that's really what continues moving the needle forward. And a big area that we've expanded in, and we have some big launches coming up, is really on the B2B side of things too. We have a lot of wholesale and corporate gifting opportunities that are happening, which is amazing because now companies are coming to Spousely and they're working with us to source these really big orders from our vendors. So now, instead of a vendor getting a $50 order, they're getting a $5,000 order. And that's like, I mean, that is incredible. That is something that I never really even thought of when I was launching it. I was just thinking like, oh my gosh, direct to consumer, this will be great. So we have these like natural ways of expanding. And while we are expanding, our community is expanding with us. So um, that's one of the biggest areas. And then really being able to amplify our vendor stories, like I said, through our podcast, really talking about, the journey of entrepreneurship, because at the end of the day, there's so many places to shop. There's so many products and services out there. But if you really truly get to know why someone started their business and what this business means to them, that is where the power is at. And that is where we can make our hard earned dollars go so much further. So I don't know if that fully answered your question, but feel free to ask me like a little bit more in depth of which one, which area.
No, you've hit a lot of really important topics, and I've encouraged listeners and viewers to check out her website, or Monica's website, excuse me. But when you're there, and I did see the corporate giving, I'm so glad that you mentioned it, because I was curious if we were going to talk about that. And
Yeah.
you're right, like to go from like a couple $100 or like $50 in orders to getting that is life changing.
Yes.
That is life changing for somebody, because it's incredibly validating. And the fact that we know that there's a lot of corporate social responsibility out there that values veterans in our communities.
Yep.
And because like I said, it was on the website and I was like, oh my gosh, this would be so cute for like gift
Yeah.
baskets, or for these like group gifts that are custom to my veteran employees. And I thought, you're right. Like, as we're talking about vision and legacy, you're leaning into an opportunity now to watch these folks exponentially grow past what they ever thought they were capable of.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
do what they love. And it's so, so important. And I know you also have the Spousely You.
Yep.
You went through like with sellers, podcast, corporate giving, but I know you have Spousely You. So I wanted to at least let you plug for that, because I know this is something else you're very
Yeah.
proud of.
Spousely You is so amazing. It was an idea that we had a few years ago, and thankfully, USA kind of helped us really bring it to life. It's powered by them, and really being able to put resources together. So that way, it's not only for vendors that need help, maybe setting up their shop or learning about marketing or taxes or anything like that. It's also available to those that are not vendors. So it could be any small business owner that is like, oh, I really need a resource for this. It allows us to really continue to expand in a way that we love most. And that is empowering and supporting, people that are on the start of their small business journey, or maybe they've already been in business for a few years, but knowing that they just have, everything that they need on this journey easily available, knowing that they can reach out to us and we can help point them, in the right direction of resources. So Spousely You has been a really great addition to not only helping our vendors grow on Spousely, but also those outside too that are looking for resources.
Outstanding. No, that's wonderful. And I'm happy to hear that USA came through and was like, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
they've been an amazing, partner of ours, and really at the end of the day, as you know, it's really helping one another amplify, our missions, amplifying what we're doing, because Spousely is definitely proof that when everybody comes together, like this is what we can continue making an impact. And same with you guys. There's just so much opportunity available when we align.
Absolutely. And I couldn't think of a more positive note to end on, particularly now that we've talked about your vision, the legacy, the impact. We know that entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart, but for the strong hearted who want to continue and make a difference. And I am very inspired by your journey. It's, like I said, it's hard to believe it's only been 5 years. I feel like you've been around a lot longer with the level of impact that you have made, Monica. So I want to give you as many kudos as possible today, and also for coming on to the Tango Alpha Lima podcast and sharing your story.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and it's been wonderful. And that's kind of it's funny, you kind of touched on something that I love to throw in there really fast, and it was, people that was feedback I was getting the first year of launching Spousely was, oh my gosh, I thought, Spousely looks like it's been around forever. Like the branding is so great, the site is wonderful, and I'll never forget. I was like, no, 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 we just launched. We need all the support that we can get. Please share and spread the word. So that's a tip that I always tell entrepreneurs is don't try to make it look perfect. Let people be a part of your journey, because that is one of the biggest things that I felt like in the first year of business, that I was trying to make everything so perfect, and you want it to really look and feel a certain way, but people love being a part of the journey. So thank you, Ashley, for being a part of the journey with us. Thanks for being a supporter, and I absolutely love everything that you guys are doing.
Oh, we appreciate you very much, Monica. We thank you for joining us today. We appreciate the insight. And for all of our alphas out there, thank you for joining us for this episode as we spotlight veteran entrepreneurship. If you found our conversation today valuable, be sure to follow the American Legion's Tango Alpha Lima podcast. Share this episode and check out additional resources at legion.org. We will, of course, as always, have show notes, and we'll be providing Monica's information with Spousely. But please like, subscribe, and drop us, of course, a rating on the show, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. Until then, keep building boldly.